we're going to work a little bit at getting down and up from the floor in different ways. So, you might want to lay out a blanket or have a pillow for your knees to land on, things like that. So you're a little more comfortable when you land on the floor. Okay. And otherwise, have any other props you like to use? We're going to begin sitting. So find any comfortable seated shape. And let's take a bit of time to settle in. So just start to notice what is making contact with the floor right now. Can you settle that space into the ground a little more? Really feeling into that support. So letting the lower half of your body settle into the support of the floor. And get a sense of your spine lifting taller through the center. Letting the head feel light as your shoulders soften away from the ears. Feel free to find a little movement there to encourage them to rest a little further back and down. Widening into the front of your chest without closing off or tightening into your back. So finding that balance for yourself. Yeah, as you sit, you could imagine that you're leaning against a wall of support behind you. So feeling your back ribs resting into that support and moving the back of your head towards that support too, like the back, the space behind you just slightly. And as you sit, can you sense the movements of your breath? With each inhale, let the breath move down your body, filling your belly, filling your lungs. And then with each exhale, follow the breath as it leaves your body, traveling back out and up. So you can imagine each inhale coming in and moving down. As the breath moves down into your body, there's a sense of expansion, widening outwards. And then with each exhale, feeling this gentle lift, drawing up and in a little through the belly as you release the breath slowly out through the nose. So follow that downward movement of the inhale, feeling your torso expanding in all directions, front to back, side to side, up and down. And each exhale, everything draws back into the center as you're releasing the breath, traveling back out through the nose. And see if you can let the breath settle into a steady rhythm. Letting your exhales be at least as long as your inhales, perhaps even a little longer. So feeling the fullness of your inhale expanding into your body. And then following the slow, complete release of the exhale, leaving your body gradually. Each inhale connects us to the floor, to the ground, to the support under us. And each exhale, feel yourself connecting to the space above you, traveling some lift and length up and out through the crown of your head. Sensing your whole body as you breathe. Now let's little by little start to bring the awareness back out again into the space around you as you slowly start to deepen the inhales through the nose, sighing out the exhales through the mouth. I'm bringing a little movement into the body. I'm starting with the head and the neck, letting the eyes open whenever you're ready for that. Yeah, you could go for another a stretch with the arms, lifting and lengthening up, finding a little further stretches where you're needing it, maybe a little side bending, maybe a little more extension. Just follow what you're needing right now as you wake up the body. All right. And then let's go ahead and make our way into table pose. So feel free to have that padding under the knees now if you want. And as you feel the support of the hands, let's just maybe start with a bit of movement in the hips. So if you just sort of sway the hips a little side to side, you might notice, some tightness in and around the glutes as the hips go to one side and then the other. And, notice how the spine moves a little bit with this. A little side bend might come into the spine. Yeah. And then as you start to circle your hips, you might want to bring your hands a little further forward so that when you circle forward, you're still comfortable through the wrists. So finding whatever range feels comfortable here as you circle and move into the hips and allow the spine to follow that movement. And then going in the other direction a few times. Yeah, letting this movement move into any other joints that feel good. So you could even bend and straighten a little more through the elbows. Right. And then coming back to center into your strong table shape. Let's go for a little rounded spine, hugging up and in through the belly as you push the floor away. Find a nice stretch in the back. And then start to open up through the front, letting the tail and the head lift. Go for those movements to the pace of your own breath here. Nice. And then when you're ready, as you exhale, let's bring it back into a downward dog. So checking in with your downward dog and, just easing into it. So I'm sort of rocking my weight a little forward towards my hands and then bringing it back again, finding a little more of that movement into the shoulders as the hips lift up and back. Feeling a little movement into the ankles here too. So you could lift and lower the heels one at a time or both together. I'm doing both together, but feel free to follow what you want, what you need. All right. And then from here, let's make our way to standing. So take your time, just staying in a standing forward bend for a couple of breaths. Once you've got all the weight there in your feet, arms can dangle, or you could have the hands on support or forearms on the thighs. And just allow for a little space to come into the back of the body here. Letting any sway, any swivel come into the body, getting into where those tight spots are for yourself. And then let's start to push into the feet and roll it up slowly. So take your time to come up, letting the head come up last as you unfurl the spine from bottom to top. Ooh. All right. As we stand, let's start out by finding some, let's go with heel raises to begin with. So feel free to have a little bit of support beside you. Sometimes heel raises challenge the balance a little bit too. So it's often just helpful to have something to even just lightly tap and touch, gives you that little bit of support you might need. So start out by lifting and spreading your toes, widening across the pads of the feet, and then let the toes relax. Feel the weight into the pads of the feet as you lift your heels to a comfortable height, and then try to slowly lower the heels with control back to the floor, and then lift them again. So for the most part, the weight is staying in the pads of the feet the whole time as you rise up and as you lower down. And then let's see about trying to challenge this a little bit. And this is where a little bit of support might be helpful. You rise up onto both feet and then see if you can lower one foot down. So lift the other foot and lower the other heel. So you rise up and then you try to find balance. This is where holding on really helps. You lift the other foot and you try to lower with one foot on the floor. Okay, so lowering with control as best you can. One heel down when the other foot lifts. Definitely a good challenge in the balance. And then maybe we could challenge it in a different way. Let's stick with one foot staying on the floor. I'm keeping my right foot there, and let the other foot, toes come onto the back of the ankle. So we can try to rise up and lower down on this one foot. So just notice that challenge is much greater because you're bringing all the weight into your one leg to lift the heel and to lower the heel. So you'll start to feel that calf muscle and maybe some muscles in and around your ankle warming up pretty quickly, maybe even that glute, okay? And then once you've done a few on that side, let's try it on the other foot. Rests, back of the toes rest on the back of the other heel. And so you try to come up as far as feels comfortable and go down again with as much control through the movement as you can. Definitely challenging. There's lots of wobbling going on. It's all right. It's your joints figuring it out, figuring out how to carry this load up and down. That's it. Try to keep the breath moving in and out through the nose. Let's try for maybe one or two more. You might notice one side is a little stronger than the other, right? Oh, yeah. Okay. And then let that go. Shake out the legs. Okay. And then let's practice a couple kind of chair pose squats. So for now, let's maybe try to keep the thighs and the feet pretty parallel, about hip distance apart or so. And as we bend at our hips to reach them back behind us, keep the chest facing forward as your knees bend. So you go as low as you can go, right? As you can go comfortably through knees, through hips, and we're just warming up. So push into your feet to come back up, straightening the legs, straightening the spine, and then coming back down, hips go down, chest stays wide in front, pushing into the feet to come up. So feel how your feet help you out with this. So again, you might lift and spread the toes, widen into the pads of the feet. Feel like, you might even keep the toes lifted. I find that's helpful to find the lift through the inner arches of the feet, up through the inner thighs, to keep that sense of lift up through the core, through the spine, to keep the chest wide. Then we can try to challenge it by going down on both feet and then balancing on the one foot to straighten up. Okay, so we're using our one leg to come up again. So we bring both feet back to the floor, come down into that chair pose, squat, shift your weight into your other leg this time, find your balance first, and then push into the foot to come up. So it's like a single-legged half squat. Okay, find both feet, go down with both feet on the floor, and then shift the weight into the one foot and then straighten up. Yeah. So try it one more time on each leg. Good. All right. And then just take a moment. Notice how things are feeling around glutes and thighs, and warming up the joints of the legs. And then let's do a couple squats. So more traditional squats where you might have the feet a little wider, you might go down a little lower, your knees are going to bend probably a little more, maybe a little more through the hips. So find your favorite, squat position. My toes like to turn out a little bit, go a little wider. And so here, finding the weight, rolling back towards the heels as much as you can as you start your squat, bending through knees and hips. These are bending together to take you down just to the depth that you can find comfortably, and then come on back up from. So going down, try to keep the chest from moving forward towards the floor. So try to keep it up and then push into the feet to come on back up. So you determine the depth of your squat. That's it. Pushing into the floor to lift you up again. Finding your knees tracking with your toes. So just pay attention to that. What's going on with the feet? Do you tend to kind of fall in on those inner arches? That's going to drop the knees in. So pushing the knees out a little bit might help with that. Let's do one more. Going down as slow as you can and then pushing into the feet to come up with control. Whew, okay. We're warmed up through those legs. Okay. So let's make our way towards the front of the mat. I think we'll do a kind of sun salutation variation, nice slow sun salutation with lunge. Yeah. So let's start at the front of the mat. Feel the inhale, starting with your hands together in front of the heart, and just follow the exhale. Breath finding its own pattern here. And then when you're ready, feel the inhale, circle the arms, lifting tall. And then with the exhale, let's fold it forward over the legs. Notice a nice stretch through the backs of them, keeping the knees as bent as you need. And then bend the knees enough to bring the hands to the floor. We're going to step the right foot back into a lunge. So staying maybe into a high lunge for a moment with that back knee off the floor, and feel maybe fingertips to the ground on either side of that front foot. Feel another breath in. And then with the exhale, let's bring this back into downward dog. So from this downward dog, let's make our way forward into a plank pose. So feel the support pushing into the hands. That's it. Widening into the chest, hugging a little more up and in through the belly. And then see if you can bring one knee in towards you, straighten that leg back, bring the other knee in. So this is sometimes called plank ladders. So it's like you're climbing a ladder as you're in this plank, bringing your knee up and then stretching your leg back again. Trying not to move much through the spine. Let's go for one more on each leg. Finding your strong plank again, and then lowering knees to the floor, slowly coming back now onto the belly. All right, so here we are on the belly. Relax and rest. Feel the front of the body settle into the floor. And see if you can lift just a slight widening and lift through the front of the chest and the head. Not a huge amount of lift. And let's see about bending one knee, pulling the heel towards the buttock, and then releasing that foot back to the floor as you bend the other knee. So doing that a couple times, bending one knee, pulling the heel as close to the buttock as you can without letting your tailbone lift towards the sky anymore. So try to keep pubic bone resting into the floor. Chest is wide. You might lower the gaze slightly. Try for one more on each leg. Yeah, getting some movement through those knees, getting some space into the front thighs and hips. And then pushing into the floor through the hands with both feet back on the ground. Come back into a brief child's pose there. Yeah, so sense the breath as it moves into your back. All right, and then let's come back into table, back into downward dog from there. So this time, can we lift our right leg up so we feel the support in the left leg, and then bend that right knee, step it forward, right foot forward. You're back in your high lunge, this time with your left leg back behind you. So find another breath there. Open up a little more through the front of the body, looking beyond your front foot as you reach strongly back through your left leg. And then start to push off your back foot, step it forward, release over the legs. And come on back up with the arms, circling out, lifting tall. Exhale the hands down through center. Nice. Find a breath or two here. And then let's go circling and moving in the other leg leading this time. So feel the inhale, circle the arms, stretch up. Find the exhale, folding you forward. So you might soften through the knees to allow for the full release of the spine over the support of the legs. Yeah, and then bend the knees enough now to bring that left foot back. And this time, let's bring the back knee to the ground for a moment and come up into this like square lunge. Okay, so feel free to have a little extra padding under that back knee. And let's just loosen into the hips a little more while we're upright. See if you can move the hips a little forward and back. We're moving through our ankle and our knee here as well on both legs. So try to stay as upright as you can and just feel and find the range of movement that's comfortable through your joints with breath. All right. And then landing the hands again, lifting the back knee off the floor to step back again into downward dog. Really nice. So can we come forward again into plank? Feel the lift remain through front hips, front ribs. So pull everything up away from the floor a little more than you think. Feel like you're actively pushing the ground away from you through the hands. And then let's do the ladders again. Bring one knee in, straighten the leg back, bring the other knee in. So feel that strong support. Stay in the leg that's on the floor while you're lifting your knee towards your arm. You can find different angles at the knee. So you might bring it out to the side a little more instead of straight ahead. Let's play around with that. One more on each leg. And then bringing it back into plank before you lower yourself down to the ground and rest. Yeah, find the floor supporting you through the front of the body and just start to tune into the breath moving into the back. Okay, let's this time bring the arms like a Y shape out in front of you. You could have your thumbs pointing up. Yeah. So can you keep the head and the chest lifted a little bit? And then lift opposite limbs up away from the floor. Feel like they're stretching away from the body as well. And then rest them back down to do the other side. Finding the angle that you can lift and lengthen each limb away from the center of the body. Doing opposite limbs while you stay pretty strong and connected through the core, through the torso. That's it. Try for another on each side. And then see if you could lift all the limbs. Yeah, find any angle at all in the arms. They could go wide like a T. They could stay forward. They could even reach back. Feel another breath wherever you are. And then take the hands to the floor beside you, feet to the ground. We can come back into a child's pose again. Send the breath into the back ribs. And each exhale, try to relax a little further. All right, let's come on back into table. Downward dog from there. So feel the strong support through both hands. You might take your right foot in a little closer to your left foot towards the middle so that you can lift your left leg up and back. Feel that. Reach and length through both legs. Then bend that left knee, bring it forward, foot lands into your lunge. Lower that back knee to the ground, top of the back foot if you want to the floor. To come up again, we're in that low lunge now, square lunge. Send the hips forward and back. Just find a little more movement there through hips, knees, ankles, while you do your best to stay upright through the spine. Arms can do anything at all here. If they want to move, let them move. Nice. All right. So then let's bring the hands back to the floor. Curl those back toes under to straighten your back leg, pushing off your back leg to step forward and releasing there over the legs. Good. Let's breathe in. Sweep the arms out, push into the feet. Come on up tall. And exhale the hands back down through center. All right. Nice. So then we're going to practice a little more coming down and up in a similar way through kind of a lunge. But I'll invite you to try to do this, with as little hand support as you can find. So sometimes holding on to blocks brings the ground, right, a little higher up. So that's an option. Or of course, just having your hands on the ground as needed. Okay, so let's start near kind of the front of the mat. And maybe instead of bending forward, we're going to try to stay upright as we step our right foot back. So find that sort of high lunge, right? And so we've done this action a lot in class before where we go down with that back knee and come up. So you might try a couple of these. letting that back knee point towards the floor as you're lowering straight down with as much control as you can. And then you're coming back up with that push through the legs, through the feet. Okay. And then could you go all the way down? And, when you get close to the bottom, you kind of feel like gravity is just going to take you. So if you need to use your hands to come down with more control, do that. All right. Okay. So we're back in the lunge. So then can we bring this left foot back maybe into a kneeling shape? Yeah, so that alone too is a good challenge on the balance. You could have toes curled under for this or toes pointing back and just find a little movement sitting towards the heels. You don't have to go all the way and then sitting back up. So finding that with the toes curled under, it's a really good stretch for the sole of the foot and the toe joints, but you do what's needed and comfortable for you. And then let's come up the same way. Okay, so coming up, we're going to send the left foot again forward. So shift your weight over to your right leg. Let the left foot step forward with control as slowly as you can. So you find that challenge in the balance. So then this is the challenge. You may need your hands. Curl the toes under. Try to push down through, especially this left foot as you lift up. And step forward. Okay. Shake it out. Again, feel free to have that extra padding behind you for your knees to land on. I have 2 yoga mats under this rug, so I'm good and cushy. All right. Let's try it with the other leg leading. Okay. And you'll notice one side feels a lot more, sort of comfortable and familiar than the other side. This side is my more awkward side. So step left foot back, find that high lunge, right knee is forward, left leg is back, and then just notice how far down you go comfortably and then push. Try that a few times. Down with the back knee, tail stays heavy, head stays light as much as you can. You're working the whole body here to keep that strong integrated support throughout. Okay, and then how far down can you go using the hands as needed? Sometimes just having hands braced on front thigh too lets you find, the ground a little easier. So try out different things. All right, so we're kneeling on that left leg. Lift the right foot and step it back into a kneeling shape. All right, feel free. Curl the toes under, keep the toes pointed back. Try to maybe find a few of these. So we sit as much back through the hips as you like. You can do this in several different ways. When you bend forward a little bit, it's maybe a little easier to move the hips back behind you, right? Rather than staying upright and going back with the hips. That's another way. That one works the quads a lot. So just ease into that one. Okay. All right. And then we're going to come up, stepping this time the right foot forward. So first, find some balance on that left leg. Yeah, and we're close to the floor when we're on our knees, and balance just feels very different, right? On our knee rather than our foot. Stepping that foot forward. Curling the back toes under, using your support under the hands as you need it to come up. So we push down through the feet to lift up and push off the back leg to step together. So that's breaking it down super slow as one way to get down to the ground, right? Okay. Swing out the legs, do any little shakes and movements that are feeling good right now. Yeah, and you feel how those legs have helped you out. All right, let's try a different approach, slightly different approach to get down to the ground. Maybe let's do this one where right foot is back, but a smaller distance. Okay, this is often how, if something is fallen on the floor, one way of getting down low is to have one leg, our back leg, going into a sort of kneeling, and the other leg goes into a squat, right? So just try to get a sense of that as you go down and then pushing into your feet to find that support to come back up. So going down, your feet are closer together. So it means your ankles and your knees and your hips are moving in a slightly different way than that last bigger lunge movement, right? So maybe one more of those. Yeah. And again, we tend to favor doing this with one leg forward pretty much all the time. And that was my favored side. So right foot forward is a little less comfortable for me. So left foot back heel is off the ground because we're going to bend down to bring this left knee towards the ground. And again, use support as you need to under your hands when you get low to the floor. And then it's like you're trying to just load into your right foot, pushing down into that foot to help you come up. So you can go down. And, if you need to help with finding a little momentum, you find that sort of rock, if you want, to help you come up with that support. So try it one more time or so. Ooh, yeah. Very good. All right, come on back and shake it out. Okay. Now, let's go back into a lunge. So maybe from this one, let's bend forward first and take the hands to the floor or not, it's your choice, but we've bent forward. We're going to load into the left leg, step the right foot back, way back there. Bring that back knee to the floor. Now, last time we came back into a kneeling shape to land to the ground. Let's this time pivot on our back knee so that foot gets out of the way. And then we're going to land the bum back here. So your hand can come to the ground and you rest into the floor, right? So your right knee is kind of bent underneath you, left leg. Let's bring that left foot back into the ground. So we again can use a bit of momentum, like reach. We're going to try to stand back up onto that left foot. So reaching forward and kind of pushing off, right hand into your feet. So move the feet and your knees as you need to, right? And then coming on up again, pivoting back on that knee to face into your low lunge, pushing into that left foot to step the back foot forward. So again, you can do that in sort of 2 steps, coming up a little, then stepping forward, or just doing it in one sweep. So let's try it on the other side. Bend forward. Bring more weight into your right leg. So your right leg is in sort of a bend, right? And then we step left foot back. Hands are welcome to help you out as your back knee comes to the ground. Pivot on your back knee to bring your foot over to the right. This way we can take our left hand to the floor and land the bum. Okay. So we've got left knee bent, right leg more in front of us. We can push down into that right foot. So how can that right foot find the floor to help you come up? Pushing into your left hand as you need to. And I find it's helpful to kind of reach in the direction I'm moving towards, right? To come up, landing into your square lunge, pivoting on that back knee, coming over that front leg, feeling its support as you push to step up. Okay. Really nice. Lots of movement in our joints. We're really working on mobility as well as whole body strength, right? Especially our lower body, but some core too. So let's get down in a slightly different way this time. So maybe more towards the back of your mat. So could we go down, try to find a way to go down, maybe with your feet mostly parallel, bending at your knees and your hips. Eventually your heels are going to lift. This requires lots of bend in those knees. So feel free to have a chair or block in front of you, if you're not going all the way down. Okay. And then just pushing back up, trying to use the support of your feet back into the heels to come up again. So we try to go down, lifting our heels, pushing into our hands can certainly help us. Come on back up again. So yeah, try it one more time with your knees and thighs as parallel as you can keep them, just to feel that difference. And then you could try to come down more through that more traditional squat. So turning the toes out, the knees and toes turning out a little more. As you come down, the heels may or may not stay on the floor. That's all good. Okay. So from this squat, let's see about walking the hands forward, taking us into a plank, and then walk the hands back, taking us back into our squat. Hips get heavy, chest gets wide, and then push down through the feet to stand up again. Okay. So take your time to get down. Hands to the floor. Walk it out. Take your time to walk it out. Feel the weight into the hands till you're in that full plank, and then walk it back. You might notice which hand you're wanting to lead with, which hand starts to walk first, and then try to do the other way. Okay, let's try it again. All right. Can you keep the breath moving in and out through the nose? Wonderful. Oh yeah, really feeling those legs. So let's go down and stay down, okay? So come on down. And maybe let's come into a kneeling shape again. This one, block sometimes is nice under the hands, or again, just using the hands on the floor. So when we're from kneeling, in order to get the bum to the floor, how do you do it? You pivot on your knees, bring your feet over to one side, hands to the other, shift the hips, maybe give the legs a stretch out. Hands coming over to that same side to bring the knees, back again. And then walking the hands more in front of you to come up into that kneeling shape. So you can do this, remaining with that support into the hands, pivoting, feet to one side, hands go to the other. So you're lowering your hips down, sending the legs out, trying to come back the same way you came in. Hands coming over to the left as the feet go back to the right. Hands can come in front into your kneeling or table. And then from here, you can get up through the lunge, back up to standing, right? Let's just stay on the floor and maybe try that another time on each side, but you might try to do it with as little support through the hands as you can, okay? This is a new practice for you. Use the hands because we're asking a lot from our knees and from our hips and from the core too. Okay, that's it. Use the hands whenever you need it, as often as you need it. Then last time, let's go down and stay down. So let's continue finding a little bit of movement into our legs, but we'll also find a little movement into the upper body. So we can do this with the hands behind you, feet in front of you, wide apart, knees wide, okay? And let's just start with a few small windshield wiper movements. So knees tick-tocking side to side, more or less the hips staying on the floor. You could lift your toes and pivot on your heels. It's actually a good massage for the outer heels. Okay. And then let's go all the way over to, I'm going to go to the right. So my knees are going to the right and the left arm swings around and starts to twist me. So towards the wall that's behind me. Yeah. And then take that left hand back to the ground as your knees go over to the other side. Other arm sweeps around and takes you into a bit of a twist. Yeah. So find that. Couple more in each direction. Letting that nice kind of spiral come through legs, pelvis, spine, head, as much as feels good. So the way to challenge this one, again, is to try not to use your hands. And when we come into the twist, it's asking a lot from those deep muscles into our back and into the obliques along the sides of the abdomen. So do what you can. It's definitely awkward at first, going through center, you have to kind of round a little bit through your spine. So let those movements happen. You might find yourself inching forward. We're kind of walking on our sitting bones now. Yeah, locomoting around on the bum. Okay. Last one, over to the second side, and then coming on back to that first side. So my knees are over to the right a bit. And then let's bring both hands to the floor. Mine are sort of in front of the right thigh. So you're trying to twist away from your left hip. And you might even start to come down. So I'm lowering my right forearm onto the floor. And we can get this lovely stretchy spiral coming through the body as you lengthen out through your left arm. Yep, so my left leg is more behind me. As I lengthen through that left arm further in front of me, I'm going to feel this stretch. So just play around a little bit with it. Find some small little movements to feel where you're enjoying this. And let the breath into that space you're finding. All right, nice. And then come on back upright, swinging that left arm behind you or not using the hands and coming over to the other side. Okay. So right leg, knees are to the left. Maybe. So just notice where your left thigh is. Take both hands more to in front of your left leg. So now you're turning, you're letting your hip turn too with you, right? So you're bringing your right hip towards your left knee more, and you're starting to turn and rotate further just to where it's comfortable for you through the back. So staying upright might be enough, or you could come down on your left forearm, send that right hand further forward, and that'll accentuate the stretch through that more right side, probably. Right side of the back, into the right hip. Where do you feel it on this side? Let the breath into that space. Really nice. And then taking the hands back to the floor. And let's bring now the soles of the feet together. Do a little butterfly flutter of those knees, loosening into the hips. And then let's give the hips a little stretch and the inner thighs too. As you come forward a bit, feel like your navel reaches forward towards your feet. You might have the hands just wherever they comfortably land, whether that's the ankles, the feet, or the floor, and then allow for a gentle release to come into the back. So I'm letting my back find some flexion, a gentle arc, and letting the ears and shoulders moving away from each other. So feel the shoulders moving away from the ears, down the back. As you feel like the crown of your head is also kind of reaching beyond your toes. Not so much down, but more forward. Feel another breath there. Wonderful. And then hug up and in through the belly to lift your spine, sitting tall again. Let's bring the legs to stretch out in front. Give them a little shake, maybe some knee bounces, maybe some wagging of the feet side to side, loosening into the legs. And then let's come back onto the back. So as we're on our back, let's have the feet on the floor. Arms along our sides. And let's feel the support of the feet. You might rock a bit up onto the toes, back to the heels, and then stand into your feet. Let's go ahead and find a bridge. So feel the lift of your hips as the tail reaches more towards the knees. That's it. So can you feel your tailbone reaching away from your head as your head is long back through the neck, away from the shoulders? So how does your bridge feel here? Breathe into all that space through the front of your body as you feel that strong support, pressing a little more into the arms, standing firm into the feet, feeling each breath slow and steady. And then whenever you're ready for it, take your time to roll your spine slowly down to the floor, maybe even over a couple breaths. Whew. Let's bring the right leg up towards the sky. And so let's find a little movement into our ankle here so we can circle the ankle, like draw the circle with your toes. Try not to move a whole lot through the knee and the hip as you draw the circle with your toes. And go in the other direction as well. Finding your full range and letting the toes move around as you do. And then let's go ahead and cross that right ankle over the left knee. So you can just feel maybe a little bit of movement in that right hip first. So I like to bring my hands, my fingers into sort of onto the pelvic bones, trying not to move them as my knee goes in towards the, opposite shoulder, head, and then away from the head towards the front. Just finding that movement in the hip socket with this little movement on the pelvis and sacrum, as you can sense. Okay, so how far forward does the knee want to go? I like to keep the foot flexed, bypassing the stretch through the ankle and knee down into that hip a little more. And then with your exhale, let's find a little bit of movement with this. On the exhale, hug up and in through the belly, lifting that left foot slowly in so the knee is coming in. And then as you inhale, slowly lower that left foot back to the floor. So just a little bit of core work, as we try to feel this movement coming as best you can from the hips, not the bum lifting when you're bringing the knee in. So just try to feel the back of the pelvis staying into the ground, back of the waist staying in the same relationship with the floor the whole time. Okay, and then the last time you can stay in that, just let yourself enjoy the stretch now. So feel free to use a belt or your hands to hold on to your left thigh as your right knee is still kind of pushing forward. Feel your left knee hugging in, maybe a little more with each exhale. And just check in with your shoulders. Can they do less? as you find a little more support from deeper within, from belly, from breath. That's it. Really nice. All right. And then when you're ready, bring both feet back to the floor. Feel free to find a couple little windshield wiper movements. I'm actually emphasizing that inward rotation through each knee in the windshield wiper. So feet go wide as inner knee falls in, and then other inner knee falls in. So just a kind of nice counter to the external hip rotation we just did. All right. And then find both feet on the floor again, back of the pelvis, landing into the floor, back of the ribs settling into the ground while we lift and lengthen through the back of that left leg to a comfortable point. You're welcome, of course, to hold on to the leg if that feels better, and start to circle into this ankle. Yeah, so notice how the toes move around, how they curl and spread as you keep breathing. Circling the other way. Nice. We did a lot on the ankles and feet today. They did a lot for us. So just finding a little movement, loosening into those joints. Okay. And then let's go ahead and cross the ankle over the right knee. And so keeping that foot pretty flexed, just see if you can feel the rotation going on in your left hip to bring your knee towards you and away from you, with as little shifting on the back of your pelvis as possible. So the tendency is to kind of tip all the weight into your left buttock when your knee is moving away from your head. So try to notice that. Okay. And then how much can you kind of feel your knee moving away from your head as you breathe in, soften into the belly. As you exhale, try to keep those back ribs, back waist in relationship with the floor as your knee comes in. Right foot off the floor. As you inhale, try to lower that right foot as slowly and as in control as you can without letting your low back arch further away from the floor. That's the challenge in this one. You're also trying not to let your shoulders, shrug up away from the ground or towards the ears. Just try to feel as much of that as you can. Okay. And then the last time when you bring that right foot up, we can hold on behind the thigh with your belt or your hands as you're here. Whew. Feel free to find little movements if you want, a little shift. You might notice if you shift your weight just a little towards the right buttock, how it might emphasize the stretch a little more through that left side. Or you can just go exploring for yourself, a little shift left to right, and feel for yourself what angle gives you the stretch you need. Very good. All right. Once you've had enough of that, once you've reached that natural endpoint on this side, release both feet. Do a few little windshield wipers if that feels good. Emphasizing again a little more of that inward rotation through the leg, inner knee towards the floor. And if it feels good to stay there on either side, feel free to. And then let yourself find the support of the ground as you end your practice here. Take a bit of time just to notice how your body feels. Softening the length of your legs in whatever position feels comfortable. Relaxing from the hips all the way down to the toes. And allowing the breath to become a little smoother and steadier, softer, as you settle into your body here for a few more cycles. And then little by little, start to deepen the breath again. Moving into fingers and toes, ankles and wrists. And feeling free to roll the head a little side to side. Enjoying any further stretch or movement that you like. And then take a moment or two resting on your side. Making your way up into any comfortable seated shape here. Yeah, notice how the hips are feeling as you sit. Find a nice, easy posture. And give thanks for your practice today. Thank you for joining me today and being here. Namaste.